Alright, I've updated my list of my picks for best sub 250 gram planes, and these sub 250 gram planes are becoming very important these days with all the restrictions we have in this hobby. Let's take a look at number one, and I wanted to give you a baker's dozen on this, but there were a couple of them that had some quality issues with the electronics. Otherwise, I would have included them in this list. But all the ones that I have in this list are the planes that just fly exceptionally well, are very stable, have good performance. All of them I would highly recommend. I also want to thank you guys for using my affiliate links when you purchase something. You know, over time that really helps for us, to buy additional items. All right, the first plane is the Sport Cub 500, the Volantex Sport Cub 500. It uses the V761 protocol. You can bind up to it with a multi-protocol transmitter. Comes as a ready to fly. It's been around for a long time, and it's still one that I highly recommend as your very first plane. It's very lightweight. The gyro makes it extremely stable in the air. It has good slow flight capability. And when you get good with it, it's got enough power that you can do a lot of aerobatics with it too. So there will be links to all of the planes that are on this list in the show notes. There will be links to all of the playlists for these planes if you want to see how they fly. If I have published my setup for these planes, they will be somewhere in the playlist. So if you look at all the videos that are listed in the playlist, you'll probably come by something that you're looking for or interested in. Okay, plane number two is the Aeros Pioneer, and the way you see it in this picture, this is not the stock motor and the stock prop. I have replaced the motor and the stock prop and the Aeros Pioneer to give it more power. It's a very, very good beginner plane, and I would definitely recommend this as your first plane. It's very durable. I understand that they have changed the protocol on this plane. When I received mine, I could bind up to it with my multi-protocol transmitter. From what I understand from people who have purchased this plane after I purchased mine, that is no longer the case. But I will say that the ready-to-fly transmitter that comes with the Aeros Pioneer is one of the best ready-to-fly transmitters I've used, and you won't have any problems flying this plane with the stock transmitter. Okay, links to it are in the show notes. I don't normally recommend 3-channel planes, but this KFPLAN Z55 Predator, they call it a Predator. I think it looks more like a Reaper. I think that the Predator actually had an inverted V-tail on it, where the Reaper had a V-tail that was, pointing up like this one. But this is such a fun plane to fly, even as a 3-channel. Now, I've converted mine to a 4-channel and brushless, but I had a lot of fun flying this as a 3-channel. I think this would make a good beginner plane too. It has a very large wingspan. It's like 660 millimeter wingspan. For as lightweight as it is, it gives it really good slow flight capability, and I think for a 3-channel plane, it was really, really stable in the air too. So I think anybody who gets this plane is going to have as much fun with it as I did. I think even if you're a beginner, you're going to have a lot of fun with this little 3-channel. And it's kind of unique because it's a military UAV, airframe. So it's the only one like that that I have flown so far. But very, very good airframe. All right, this one, the Volantex Ranger 600, is the absolute easiest to fly plane I've ever had in the air. This is the one that I would recommend for anyone who wants to test out their very first airplane, RC airplane. It has an exceptional glide. It has extremely good slow flight capability. Since the motor is a pusher motor and it's a pylon mounted, if you nose it in, you're not going to have to worry about damaging the motor or the prop. It's a full 4-channel plane, aileron, elevator, rudder, throttle, and it's just fantastic. This plane checks all the boxes when it comes to a beginner plane, and I just have a blast with it. You know, you can take this up high and just cut the motor off and just glide and glide and glide with it. Just one of those planes that's a joy to fly. It's another one that's extremely durable. It's made out of EPP foam, which is the most durable foam I've come across. It flies off of a 1S LiPo. It's just a brushed motor with a direct drive prop, but it actually has pretty decent power to it too. So if you want to, you can do loops with it, you can do rolls with it, you can do split S maneuvers with it. It's an all-around excellent beginner plane. And I've seen a lot of you purchase this plane too using the affiliate account. Thank you very much for doing that. This plane is an Eachine AtomRC branded plane. It is the best twin motor sub 250 gram plane I've flown. This one flies off of a 3S LiPo. It's very speedy, but it has pretty good slow flight capability too. It's very aerobatic, it's very stable and very predictable. This is one of the best sub 250 grams I've flown for performance and stability. Next up is the RadioLink A560. It's 200 grams all up weight with a 2S LiPo. It has enough power that it will accelerate vertically. I was totally impressed with the performance of this plane. One of the things that I like about a plane that has that kind of power, like this one does, is it doesn't require speed to do aerobatic maneuvers. It's got enough power that you can do aerobatic maneuvers with it slowly, which makes it very graceful in the air. And I think that, and this is a beginner 3D plane, so if you've never flown a 3D plane before, this is the one that I recommend. And one of the things that I like about 3D planes is because you can do maneuvers in it slowly, because the plane can fly so slowly and it's so aerobatic. I think that this 3D plane is an excellent plane for practicing aerobatics. Now this one is a strange looking plane, but it flies exceptionally well. The whole plane is basically a lift body. So it has a really good flight envelope. You know, you can fly it fast, but you could fly it really slow. You can fly this on a 2S or you can fly it on a 3S. You won't complain about the power on a 2S, but if you put a 3S LiPo in it, and that's the only thing you have to do, you don't have to change anything else, put a 3S LiPo in it and it has unlimited vertical. That's the way I like to fly it. RadioLink is one of the best companies I've come across for picking power systems for their planes that have a ton of power, but also get a heck of a lot of flight time. I have flown a lot of sub 250 gram Parkjets. I have designed and built sub 250 gram Parkjets. This is the only sub 250 gram factory Parkjet that is able to compete with my Glue and Fly Series DIY F22 Micro. It's almost identical in size to my Glue and Fly Series F22 Micro. Like my F22 Micro, this RadioLink SU-27 can fly on a 2S or on a 3S. On a 2S, it has adequate power that you can do aerobatics with it. On a 3S, it's a screamer. It's a cloud buster, and it has unlimited vertical. It's very stable. It has a very wide flight envelope with a little bit of high alpha. You can fly it very, very slowly, and it's very good at doing high alpha. The Flybear Sbach 342. This is the first plane that I flew that had a 3D mode that I really, really liked. And for a sport plane, if you're looking for a sport plane, a very maneuverable, very aerobatic, sub 250 gram sport plane, this is the plane that I recommend. It has a 6G and 3D mode gyro in it. And this is the first plane that had a 3D mode that I really, really liked, where the gains weren't so high on all the other planes that I flew that had a 3D mode. The gains were so high, it always felt like it was fighting me. whenever I tried to do aerobatic maneuvers with it, and it's not the case with this one. This one is very smooth in 3D mode. You can tell that there's some stabilization input from the gyro, but it doesn't prevent you from doing what you want to do with it, which is what I like about the 3D mode on this plane. Just an all-around great plane, and another one that I highly recommend. The XK-A280. This one has a 6G mode and a 3D mode, just like the Flybear Sbach 342. This one flies very similar to that in 3D mode. This was my absolute favorite sub 250 gram warbird before the last one that I'm going to show you came along. But this is an exceptional flying P-51D warbird. The only drawback to this was it has a really good amount of flight time with the stock prop on it, but not a lot of power. I don't think it had sufficient power, but it didn't have the type of power that I like to see in a warbird. So I tested a bunch of different props with this, and I found that the APC 7x5 two-blade thin electric prop, because it comes with a 4-blade prop, two-blade thin electric prop really increases the performance of this XK-A280 P-51D Mustang. Everyone, I think, who has flown this with that 7x5 prop modification has been extremely happy with it. I've seen a lot of people pick up on the mod that I performed on this with that 7x5 two-blade prop. And so I know there's a lot of people flying it that way now. And all of the posts that I have seen have been positive with that modification on this plane. And so this is one of the warbirds that I really highly recommend. It was my #1 pick for sub 250 gram warbird for a very long time until this next warbird came along. And here it is. This is the Eachine / Volantex P-51D Miss Helen edition. It has a breakaway prop. It has a direct drive brushless motor that operates off of 2S, just like the XK-A280, but this one has a breakaway prop. Now the stock prop on this, which you can see is a 4-blade prop, but with the stock prop on this one, it has the same amount. It has just as good a performance with the stock prop on this one as the XK-A280 does with the 7x5 prop. So this has really, really good power right out of the box. The gyro is different on this one. The gyro is just as good as the XK-A280 in fully stabilized mode. They're both extremely stable in fully stabilized mode. No one's going to have any problems flying it in that mode. I like the 3D mode on the XK-A280. I don't like the mid mode, the intermediate mode on this plane. It's not as restrictive, but really the only thing you can do with it is loops. It doesn't allow you to do rolls. So I don't really care for the intermediate mode on the Volantex gyros. But in manual mode, once you get this balanced and once you get it trimmed out, in manual mode, this plane feels very locked in with a hobby grade transmitter. I like it because there's no gyro input on it. It's all you when you're flying it in manual mode. I would love it if the mid mode was just a wind mitigation mode, because I like flying in wind mitigation mode most of the time because it's typically breezy and gusty. But even in some wind, this plane handles exceptionally well in full manual mode. So I think whether or not you would prefer this plane or you would prefer the XK-A280 depends on how you like to fly. If you like to have some gyro stability when you fly, then I think you will prefer the XK-A280. If you like to fly in manual mode where it's just you, and you like a plane that has a pretty locked-in feel in full manual mode with a hobby-grade transmitter, then I think you're going to prefer this one. But either one of those planes fly exceptionally well. No one's going to have any problems flying either one of those planes in full stabilized mode. This one has better performance out of the box without having to change anything. This one now has become my favorite for a sub 250 gram Warbird with the XK-A280 a very, very close second. This is my list. These are my picks. These are the ones that I highly recommend to anybody who's looking for a sub 250 gram plane. All right, don't forget, links to all the playlists for all these planes are in the show notes. So if you haven't watched any of these planes fly, take a look at those and you'll see why I recommend these planes. Anyway, that's a wrap on this episode. Stay tuned, and I will see you next time in the Tinkerz Lab.